Chapter 71, Rat God Cult Meeting. Before I knew it, more than a month had passed since the novel was put on the shelf. The royalties for the first month were released. It was over 80,000 yuan. Lin Zikin looked at the figure and felt somewhat excited. His parents, standing by, were even more excited than him, saying that a genius is a genius, excellent at everything. Xiao Chen, take this bank card. Your author account is linked to this card. Once the website transfers the royalties in a few days, the money will be deposited here. Lin Yanzheng handed over a bank card to Lin Zikin and continued, as for the royalties, since you earned them yourself, you get to decide how to spend them. You can do whatever you want, and mom and dad won't ask too many questions. Lin Zikin took the bank card and nodded to show he understood. A few days later, when the royalties were transferred to his account, he immediately headed to the mall with the intention to purchase and consume violent great eagle meat. This time, he didn't go straight to the landlord uncle to ask for help with the purchase but instead went to the counter to ask the salesperson if there was a discount for buying a large amount of exotic beast meat. Then, he was told there was a discount, saying that a bulk purchase of 100 pounds would get a 5% discount. With this information, Lin Zikin decided not to buy just yet, thinking he would wait until he had saved enough to buy 100 pounds at once. After all, it was just a matter of next month. The next day. School. As soon as the bell rang for the end of class, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan hurried to the cafeteria. Just a few days before, a new stir-fry window had opened in the cafeteria, and many students said the chef's dishes were really fragrant and delicious. When Shen Qinghan learned about this yesterday, she told Lin Zikin she wanted to try it. Lin Zikin agreed. So, both of them intentionally didn't bring lunch today, wanting to eat at the cafeteria instead. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan walked quickly. When they arrived at the cafeteria, there weren't many people queuing up. Seeing this, Shen Qinghan hurriedly ran to the stir-fry window with Lin Zikin and ordered 1 meat and 2 vegetable dishes, 3 dishes in total. Since they arrived early and didn't need to queue, it took less than 20 minutes for their 3 dishes to be cooked. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, holding their dishes, casually found an empty spot to sit down and start eating. While they were eating, a long queue started to form in the cafeteria. Xiao Chen, it's good that we came early, otherwise we would have to join a long queue now. Seeing the food line stretching almost out of the cafeteria door, Shen Qinghan couldn't help feeling fortunate. Lin Zikin, not one for many words, simply said, "Indeed." Just then, a commotion erupted from one of the food lines at the front. "Why are you cutting in line? Go back to the end." "I'm not cutting in line, my desk mate saved this spot for me." "You think you can reserve a place in the queue for someone? What a joke! Cutting is cutting, get out and line up at the back." "So what if I cut in line? I'm cutting in front of my desk mate, it's none of your damn business." "Are you an idiot? Your desk mate is in front of me. How is cutting in front of your desk mate any different from cutting in front of me? I just did, what are you going to do about it?" Amid the arguing, Lin Zikin recognized He Yu's voice. Looking in the direction of the noise, sure enough, it was He Yu having a dispute with someone. On closer inspection, it seemed that He Yu was upset about someone cutting in line in front of him and was giving the other person an earful. "Xiao Chen, He Yu is arguing with someone, should we go over and see what's happening?" Shen Qinghan also noticed He Yu and, seeing that he was the one being cut in front of, thought about whether to support him or not. Lin Zikin said indifferently, "We shouldn't be needed, He Yu has a fierce presence, the guy who jumped the queue got coward." And indeed, that was the case. The queue jumper, being in the wrong, couldn't out-talk He Yu, and quickly left the line. Just when everyone thought the matter was over, suddenly, several boys from the neighboring line left their own queue and walked straight towards He Yu, taking the person who had just been scolded for jumping the queue, and cut in front of He Yu. He Yu was stunned for a moment, then became somewhat angry out of embarrassment. What do you think you're doing? Nothing much, just purely wanting to cut in front of you, said the person ahead of him arrogantly without turning back. He was infuriated and immediately tried to push all the queue jumpers out. However, upon pushing, he found he couldn't budge them at all. The queue jumpers were far stronger than him. Seeing this, Linziken no longer sat motionless and immediately got up and walked towards He approached He, looked at the people in front of him, and said indifferently, "Out." One of them retorted arrogantly, "What can you do if I don't leave?" Linziken took out his phone, turned on the recording, and captured the queue jumping group, saying coolly, "I will report you." Upon hearing this, their faces changed, not expecting Linziken to be so shameless. Normally students resolve conflicts themselves to save face, without involving teachers or school leaders. Who would act without martial ethics like this? Soon, the group left the queue, no longer daring to cut in, afraid of being reported on video. As they passed by Linziken, one of them said disdainfully, "Playing this reporting game is disgraceful." Linziken replied, "I find the act of queue jumping even more disgraceful." The person was at a loss for words, feeling humiliated, and swiftly left. The others left just as quickly. Shanghai City. Inside a villa in the affluent district. The rat god cult sect hierarch summoned all his followers for a meeting. There weren't many of them, just over 20. Seeing that everyone was present, the rat god cult sect hierarch began, "Stupid Strong is dead. He went crazy a while back and messed with the security team at the market, and ended up losing his life." Someone clapped and cheered upon hearing this, "Good riddance to that fool. He was always causing trouble with his madness. I've wanted him dead for a while, he would have implicated us sooner or later." The rat god cult sect hierarch ignored him and turned to call a young man standing behind him. Then he introduced to the crowd, "This young man is a newcomer, he will take Stupid Strong's place. Everyone gets to know him." After finishing the introductions, he continued, "Also, the rat god has conveyed to me that ordinary people are too pitiful and not tasty. From now on, we should target the nobility and higher UPS. Everyone should be aware so we don't bring the wrong sacrifices later." Someone raised a question, "Sect hierarch, it's too risky to snatch the high and mighty." Another person added, "Yes, sect hierarch, it doesn't matter if one or two ordinary people go missing, but if a noble disappears, it might cause a big issue." The rat god cult sect hierarch said, "Try to choose the sons of wealthy businessmen with no power, the risk will be much lower that way." After speaking, he turned to the newcomer, "Since you're new, you don't have to snatch the noble ones yet. First, snatch a handsome ordinary young male to practice. Later, offer him to one of the rat god's divine sons as a sacrifice." The newcomer was puzzled, "Sect hierarch, why does it have to be someone handsome? Wouldn't an ugly one suffice?" The rat god cult sect hierarch replied, "Because the rat god likes beautiful things." "I see," the newcomer nodded and then confidently said, "Don't worry, sect hierarch, I'll present the most handsome sacrifice in the entire city to the divine son. P.S. Bowls out, asking for monthly and recommendation tickets." Chapter 72, The Humiliation Under the Crotch. Several days had passed since the last cafeteria line cutting incident. That day, as soon as He arrived at school, he brought the matter up to Linziken, saying with an indignant face, "I've been looking into it for several days, and I finally figured out which class those who cut in my line the other day belong to. You might not believe it, but those people are actually from Class 3 Senior Year 2, the top key class we're about to challenge." As he spoke, he couldn't help but complain, "Even the key class students lack manners, I'm truly at a loss for words. Being good at studies doesn't mean one also has good manners." Linziken, while scrolling through the news on his phone, responded indifferently. At that moment, a news report caught his attention. It said that a rich second generation had gone missing in the city, unreachable for 3 days, and their family was offering a hefty reward online for their return. Another rich second generation missing? Linziken furrowed his brows. This was the 5th case of a rich second generation disappearance he had seen in these days. Initially, he thought it was a kidnapping for ransom, but after several days passed, he realized there was no kidnapper contacting the families for a ransom. It was very strange. Deeply frightening. While he was mulling over this, Li Chuxin, who sat in front of him, said to Shen Qinghan. Han Han, there's going to be a singing contest at school at the end of December. I want to sing a duet, and we're missing a partner with a soft voice. Your voice is so gentle, how about we join the contest together? I can't sing. No problem, the lyrics you need to handle are minimal. You just have to hum along with me occasionally. Why don't you find someone else? Shen Qinghan had a bit of social anxiety at school and simply didn't have the courage to perform on stage. Seeing her refusal, Li Chuxin immediately took her hand and pleaded, Han Han, please join me in the competition. Your voice is so soft and lovely, with you as a partner, we can definitely win a place. But Shen Qinghan felt very troubled and did not know how to refuse Li Chuxin. Linziken, sitting behind, seeing this, advised, Han Han, why don't you join Chu Xin in the contest? Your voice is very suited for singing. And I'm sure it will sound great. He thought Shen Qinghan was being too introverted at school and that participating in a singing competition to practice being on stage would be a good way for her to build confidence. Li Chuxin also urged, exactly, Han Han, your voice really is perfect for singing. It would be a pity not to show off your talent in the competition. After hesitating for a moment, Shen Qinghan finally agreed to join Li Chuxin in the contest, considering Linziken's feelings. You and Li Chuxin have successfully persuaded Shen Qinghan to join the singing contest, total completed tasks count +1. Linziken was somewhat surprised, he had not expected this to contribute to the progress of his social animal achievement. A few days later, on Saturday morning. Inside the gymnasium. Linziken's Class 1 Junior Year 1 was set to challenge the strongest key class of Senior Year 2, Class 3. During the warm-up period, a few boys from Senior Year 2 Class 3 gathered to chat and occasionally glanced over at Linziken and Hiyu. It was none other than the guys who cut in Hiyu's line last week. Linziken noticed their stares but didn't care, continuing to quietly help Shen Qinghan warm up. Hiyu, however, looked back at them and was immediately met with their middle fingers raised in provocation, which infuriated him enough to raise his middle finger in response. Soon after, both classes had finished warming up, and the competition was about to start. As last time, Shen Qinghan was the first to compete for Class 1 Junior Year 1. The only difference was that this time, Shen Qinghan was defeated within 3 seconds of taking the stage, swept off her feet by her opponent's leg sweep and then pinned down, unable to move. The senior girls from the key class were too strong, and even her turtle-style defense couldn't withstand their attacks. It wasn't just her, Wen Yuntung, Chu Yuxi, Li Chuxin and several other girls all got instantly taken down by the same opponent as soon as they stepped on the stage, with no chance of fighting back. It was only in the 9th match, when a short-haired girl with a sturdy build took the stage, that they finally managed to knock the key class's first competitor off the stage. After that, an even stronger senior girl from the opposing team started to dominate in the martial stage once again. In less than 10 minutes, they wiped out 9 people in a row. Among them, there were 3 boys. Class 2 maintained such an obvious trend of strength disparity as the battle continued. Before long, Class 1 of Senior Year 1 was left with only Linziken, Wang Shijia, Lu Gang, and Hiyu, 4 people. Whereas Senior Year 2 Class 3 had only lost 5 students from the stage, with as many as 36 students yet to compete. The 5 students who were knocked off the stage were all girls, the other side hadn't even fielded a single boy. The disparity in strength was too great, there was simply no way to fight. In the face of this situation, everyone in Class 1 of Senior Year 1 frowned deeply, feeling somewhat powerless and desperate. Everyone except Lin Zikin. He needed to defeat as many opponents as possible to complete the survival of the fittest achievement. Seeing that his classmates were almost beaten, he was secretly pleased, eagerly hoping to soon be the last man standing. He Yu, it's your turn. Han Yuanfeng looked at He Yu, assigning him a difficult task. There are still 6 girls left on the other side, go and take them all down. Can you do it? No problem. He Yu answered confidently, and after speaking, he jumped onto the martial stage. Then, living up to expectations, he took a bit of effort to knock out all 6 girls from the opposing side. Following that, a boy in a tank top from the other side entered the stage. He Yu saw that the newcomer was actually an acquaintance, the very person who first cut in line at the cafeteria that day. Ready to die? The boy in the tank top said with a grin as he approached. He Yu also smiled, not only do you lack manners, but you also lack self-awareness. The opponent was the first boy from the class to enter the fray, certainly a weakling. He Yu was full of confidence for this duel. Seeing that both participants were in position, the referee quickly raised his right hand and chopped it down. Let the duel begin. No sooner had the referee spoken than the boy in the tank top used a swift step to move in front of He Yu and, before He Yu could react, raised his hand and punched him to the ground. Then, in full view of everyone, he stepped over He Yu's body, deliberately humiliating him. Fuck your mother! He Yu, enraged and humiliated, got up to hit the boy in the tank top. However, before he could throw a punch, he was kicked to the ground by the boy in the tank top and then stepped over again. Referee, student, you must not deliberately humiliate your opponent, warning once. The boy in the tank top ignored him, kicking He Yu, who had just stood up, down again, and then stepped over him. Referee, warning twice. Seeing that he had been warned twice, the boy in the tank top did not continue to humiliate He Yu and directly kicked him off the martial stage. The kick was so forceful that He Yu curled up in pain beside the stage, his face twisted in agony. The boy in the tank top looked at the referee and asked, I won't be disqualified until I've been warned 3 times, right? The referee frowned, while that's the rule, indeed, insulting your opponent is an extremely reprehensible act. I advise you not to do it. The boy in the tank top didn't heed the referee and instead looked down at Lin Zikin, smiling, Junior, I remember you like to medal a lot. Do you want to come up and medal again? After speaking, he gestured to Lin Zikin with a hooked finger, his face full of provocation, if you have the guts, come on up, otherwise let it be. Lin Zikin could see that the boy in the tank top was very strong, definitely one of the frontrunners in the class. He had intentionally come out first to target He Yu and then humiliate him publicly. And now, it was his turn. But I was just worried I wouldn't get a chance to participate. With that thought, Lin Zikin leaped onto the martial stage with one jump. P.S. Begging for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 73, Challenge the entire school. Ziai Chen, blow him away, give him the humiliation under the crotch, too. Cutting the line in the cafeteria is bad enough, but acting so disgusting on the martial stage, where's your shame? Humiliate him harshly, get revenge for He Yu. As soon as Lin Zikin stepped onto the stage, everyone in his class started shouting at him with emotion. They all knew about He Yu being cut in line, they knew the man in the vest on stage was one of those who cut the line that day. And now they were all united in their animosity. Chi Yu, step over his head. I hate snitches the most, gonna brutally torture him first before stepping over his head. Do it to him. The people from the opposing class were also shouting. However, not many were shouting, just those few who cut in line with the man in the vest that day. The homeroom teachers from both sides were somewhat dumbfounded, unable to understand why the situation had suddenly become so tense. It wasn't until they inquired with someone in the know that they learned it all stemmed from an old grudge related to cue cutting in the cafeteria. The homeroom teacher of Class 3, Year 2 had a headache, as a few students in the class lacked manners. Depending on their strong martial arts abilities, from the first year of high school until now, they had caused no small number of troubles and were basically uncontrollable. Han Yuanfeng had some objections but just frowned and didn't say much. Because, when students have conflicts, the best way to resolve them is to determine the winner and loser on the martial stage. There was no need for him to step in and mediate. On the stage, the man in the vest looked provocatively at Lin Zikin and said, "Perhaps, you could forfeit, so you don't have to be stepped over by me later." Forfeiture is the greatest taboo in martial arts competitions. Those who practice martial arts must show fighting spirit and dare to compete. The man in the vest said this to show off and to disgust Lin Zikin. Lin Zikin simply ignored him and looked towards the referee, speaking indifferently, "We're both in position. We can start the duel now." The referee nodded and then raised his right hand swiftly, chopping it down. "The duel begins." As soon as the voice fell, the man in the vest fiercely pushed off the ground, rushing towards Lin Zikin like an arrow. He liked to brag before the fight, but once the battle started, he never underestimated his opponent. If one could give their full effort, they would first knock the person down, then continue to arrogantly show off. Buzz! As the man in the vest approached Lin Zikin, he raised his leg for a vicious high side kick, targeting Lin Zikin's head. The speed was so quick, and the power so great, it even created a faint sonic boom in the air. This one kick, if an ordinary student were to take it to the head, could result in a light concussion or, in more severe cases, immediate unconsciousness. Smack! A crisp sound rang out. Lin Zikin didn't even move his feet, lazily raising a hand to slap away the leg the man in the vest had kicked over. Next, he grabbed the man's head and pushed down forcefully, bang, smashing his face to the ground. Finally, he raised his leg to step over and add insult, then kicked the man off the martial stage, ending the fight at lightning speed. The entire set of movements flowed like water, executed cleanly and swiftly, and took no more than 3 seconds. I lost. Below the stage, the man in the vest sat slumped on the ground, his forehead was scraped, and his nose bleeding, his face filled with life doubts, and he looked utterly disheveled. Even now, he hadn't quite grasped what had just happened. He only knew that he had rushed over to deliver a high kick to Lin Zikin, and then in the next second, everything went dark as his head was planted straight into the ground. His head was in pain and still buzzing. Most likely concussed. What happened? Chi Yu's strength ranks in the top 5 in our class, how did he get floored so easily? That cool junior is that strong. The students from Class 3, Year 2 were completely dumbfounded, their faces filled with disbelief. In contrast, the students of Class 1, Year 1 appeared calm and untroubled. They had all witnessed Lin Zikin's strength and knew he had the ability to accomplish this. Another easy takedown. Han Yuanfeng squinted his eyes and muttered, "This kid is definitely hiding his true power." He was aware of how strong that vest-wearing guy in the opponent's class was. Much stronger than the black, overweight kid they had faced before. Yet, he was effortlessly taken down by Lin Zikin. Lin Zikin was absolutely holding back quite a bit of strength, otherwise, there was no way he could do this. Listening to Han Yuanfeng's murmurs, Wang Shuzhe and Liu Gang beside him were completely stunned. Damn, Lin Zikin is already showing such strength, and you're telling me that's not all of it? Is this guy even human? On the other side, He Yu glanced at Lin Zikin on the stage, then at the vest-wearing guy sitting on the ground with a nosebleed, feeling a mix of emotions. The guy who beat me like a dog just got easily wiped out by Ziyi Chen. I was showing off in front of him at the start of school, how clownish is that? Han, your Ziyi Chen is too incredible. Li Chuxin was dazzled by Lin Zikin's recent moves, her face full of admiration. My Ziyi Chen? It was the first time Shen Qinghan heard this phrase and felt a little happy inside. On the stage, Lin Zikin paid no attention to the exclamations around him and looked expressionlessly towards Class 2, Grade 3, addressing the few who had jumped the queue with the vests-wearing guy. "Who's next?" His voice sounded very calm but was unusually imbued with intimidating pressure. Those guys, hearing this, didn't look too good, already anticipating the thrashing they'd get on stage. The arrogance and shouting from before had vanished, replaced by panic. About half an hour later, all 29 remaining students of Grade 2, Class 3 were defeated. All by Lin Zikin. Each match ended in a quick defeat. Among them, those who had been part of the queue jumping suffered the same fate as the vest-wearing guy. All were humiliated by Lin Zikin stepping on their heads, then kicked off the martial stage. Now they were all sitting on the ground with bloody noses, looking quite miserable. After the last match, Lin Zikin had a thought and checked his progress in the survival of the fittest achievement through the void. Achievement: in an official competitive situation, use the most primal method of organisms to cumulatively eliminate 1,000 different adversaries. Reward: gain the biometric attribute survival of the fittest. Cumulative adversaries eliminated, 119/1000. Only 119? Looking at the number on the progress bar, Lin Zikin couldn't help but frown. The achievement survival of the fittest appeared much earlier than social animal, but the completion progress was several hundred behind that of social animal. This rate of progress was too slow. The reason was that he was always the last one to fight during the class bouts. No, this can't continue. My strength far exceeds the high school level, there is no need to follow high school rules. I need to set my own rules. Come Monday, I'll go to the academic affairs office and ask the principal to arrange a reward-based personal challenge for me. I will challenge the whole school. P.S. Bowl in hand, asking for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 74, 74. Public enemy of the whole school. 2 days later, Monday morning. As soon as Lin Zikin arrived at school, he headed straight to the administrative building to find the female principal and tell her he wanted to hold a personal challenge match. The rules were simple: he would defend the position while allowing the entire student body to challenge him. The female principal was a bit dumbfounded after hearing this. "You're just a freshman and you want to challenge the entire student body, are you serious?" Lin Zikin didn't beat about the bush and took the female principal to a corner of the gym where no one was and showed her his strength by lifting a 700 kg barbell with one hand. The female principal was completely shocked. 700 kilograms. That's even stronger than Wu Tiancheng, the strongest student in the school's history, during his freshman year. Am I dreaming? Once she regained her composure, the female principal said excitedly, "No problem, I'll arrange a solo showcase where you can challenge the entire school. Principal, remember to set up a reward, without a reward, no one will be motivated." "Don't worry, leave it to the principal. It's best to set up 2 kinds of rewards, one for participation to encourage everyone to step up and challenge, and a cumulative reward, which is a prize pool that grows with each challenge attempt. The more attempts, the larger the pool of prize money. Whoever beats me gets to take the prize money. If no one can beat me within a certain period, then I'll receive the prize money." "Okay, we'll do it just as you said. Principal, regarding my strength, you must keep it a secret for me first, otherwise nobody will be motivated to challenge if they find out." All right, the principal will listen to you." No matter what Lin Zikin asked for, the female principal was quick to agree without hesitation, completely unlike the domineering figure who instilled fear in the entire school on regular days. That's the charm of a genius of the highest caliber in school history, capable of making the high and mighty female principal willingly become an eager follower, as if she were hypnotized. At lunch break, the female principal, having spent the whole morning pondering, personally came to class 1 of freshman year with the solo showcase plan she had prepared and handed it to Lin Zikin for his approval. Lin Zikin quickly glanced at it and nodded with satisfaction. Nicely done, principal, thank you for your hard work. The female principal beamed, oh, it's no trouble at all. Many of the passing teachers and students rubbed their eyes, wondering if they were dreaming. What's going on? How come the ever-serious female principal, the notorious terror of the school, was smiling like a sycophant in front of a student? What sort of turnaround was this? Unlike everyone else, Shen Qinghan, who also witnessed this scene, remained completely calm throughout. Whether it was teachers fawning over Lin Zikin or the principal doing so, she had grown up seeing it and was well accustomed to it. She even thought that even when they got to university, the university principal would still act as Lin Zikin's eager follower. On the other side, the female principal, excited by the discovery of an unparalleled genius, was not concerned about the odd looks from others. Seeing that Lin Zikin had no issues with the plan, she immediately took out her phone and notified all the homeroom teachers to gather their students at the field at 2 in the afternoon, announcing there was something important to disclose. 2 in the afternoon. All the homeroom teachers brought their students to the field punctually. Lin Zikin and the female principal stood on the stage. Once everyone was gathered, the female principal immediately took the microphone and announced Lin Zikin's challenge to the entire school. She detailed Lin Zikin's basic personal information, his recent achievements, and the rules of the challenge, the prize money, and so forth. Upon hearing this, the teachers and students below were in an uproar. Principal, are you serious? The principal has gone mad. You, a freshman new student, are setting up a challenge for the entire school to face you. Where does your confidence come from? You think you're worthy of our challenge? Just because you beat the strongest class of sophomores, you're acting like this, and if people didn't know better, they'd think you had defeated the top class of seniors. Arrogant and ignorant, do you think you are the historically strongest student, Wu Tiancheng? Seeing Lin Zikin, a freshman, daring to set up a challenge for the whole school, many older students felt offended and started berating him from below the stage. Facing everyone's questions, Lin Zikin simply said, starting tomorrow, for 2 hours during every lunch break, I will be at the gym defending the position, and everyone is welcome to come and spar. On the way home, Shen Qinghan's peachy eyes brimmed with curiosity. Xiao Chen, how come you suddenly want to challenge the whole school like this? It's not your style. High school is so boring. Just looking for some fun. Liar. You caught me. Tell me. Shen Qinghan coquettishly clung to Lin Zikin's arm. Lin Zikin, not now, wait until I come up with a good excuse, then I'll tell you. Shen Qinghan. Seeing her puff up her cheeks unhappily, Lin Zikin stopped teasing her and told her the reason he had prepared in advance. The principal saw how well I did in the class competition and wanted to see my limit. He set this challenge up especially for me. You actually agreed with the principal? That's not like you. Of course I agreed, there's money involved, said Lin Zikin, adding, once we get the money, we should find a time for our two families to go out for a big meal. Yes, yes. Shen Qinghan nodded repeatedly like a chick pecking, already drooling at the thought. Seeing this, Lin Zikin couldn't help but smile. Such a foodie, just like when she was little. Evening. After dinner, Lin Zikin rested for a while and quickly started his daily exercise routine. Last night was strength training, so tonight is speed. He changed shoes, grabbed his keys. Lin Zikin stepped out the door, ready to go for a road run. As he left, he heard a gentle, sweet voice singing from the neighboring building. It was very pleasant to the ear. It was Shen Qinghan practicing her singing again, preparing hard for the December singing competition. Such a soft, lovely voice, and she was practicing so earnestly, she was bound to win a prize at this rate. I'll have to buy a bouquet for that occasion. After she finishes singing and wins, I'll go on stage and give them to her. What kind of flowers should I buy? I'll need to think about this carefully. There's still time, might as well run by the florist on the way. Thinking this, Linzikin picked up his pace toward the nearest florist. On the bustling street, a somewhat handsome young man, holding a cup of lemon tea that costs just 4 yuan, stood on the sidewalk, scrutinizing every person who walked by. Oddly enough, he wasn't interested in the beautiful women at all. Whether they were in stockings or in cheongsams, he didn't give them a second glance. His gaze remained solely on the young, handsome men. I give up. Is Shanghai City this bad? All I want is a perfect 10 in terms of looks. How come I've been searching for days without any luck? All these handsome guys passing by have flaws. It's so annoying. If I can't complete this sacrifice task perfectly, how will the sect hierarch look at me? Will I be ostracized in the cult in the future? The more he thought about it, the more agitated the young man became, almost to the point of stamping his feet in frustration. Just as he decided to give up on perfectionism and was ready to catch a decent-looking guy to get it over with, suddenly, he spotted a full-score handsome guy in the flower shop across the street. Holy shit, so handsome! It's like finding a needle in a haystack without even trying. Pikachu, I choose you. P.S. Bowls out, begging for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 75, 75. The Fall of the Rat God Cult. On a deserted highway at night, Linzikin looked at the half-human half-rat corpse on the ground, his expression filled with confusion. Is this it? Did he just pick up a rock and throw it, and then it died? Are there really followers of the Rat God Cult this week? When he had left the flower shop, Linzikin had noticed someone following him. He originally thought it was a coincidence, that he was just being paranoid. But unexpectedly, as he was about to reach the highway, the person suddenly sped up and chased after him. Turning around at the sound, he saw the person had 8 eyes on his face and was covered in dense fur. Linzikin didn't say a word and took off running. But as he ran, he noticed that the person's speed seemed a bit slow and couldn't keep up at all. So, he stopped to pick up a rock and threw it, intending to test the person's strength. As a result, that single throw killed him. What kind of experience baby was this? Linzikin was puzzled, but he didn't dwell on it for too long. He soon squatted down and extended his finger to touch the corpse on the ground. Then, with a thought, devour. You have devoured a strand of life essence from the gigantic mutant rat. Gigantic mutant rat compendium, 8%. Only increased by 1%? That's really little. No wonder this rat man was so trash. Linzikin shook his head, took some time to clean up the scene, and quickly left the highway. He didn't go for a night run anymore, opting to go straight home instead. Just going out for a jog and being targeted by a rat man was somewhat hazardous. For safety reasons, he decided not to go for nightly runs for the time being. After all, not every follower of the Rat God cult was as trash as the one he encountered tonight. Some more formidable followers of the Rat God, after mutating, had extremely powerful flesh that could even withstand firearms. After returning home, Linzikin engaged in high-intensity training at home. He trained for several hours straight. In between, sweet singing from the next room occasionally filtered through. It was Shen Qinghan practicing her singing again. It was clear that she was taking the singing competition at the end of December very seriously. After working out, he took a bath. Linzikin leaned against the wall, sitting on the bed browsing the news on his phone. Not long into reading, he came across a news item about the Rat God cult. In the news, the city security minister stated that a series of recent kidnappings of wealthy second-generation individuals had been confirmed as the work of Rat God cult followers. The city security minister expressed great anger and shame, assuring the citizens that they would eradicate the Rat God cult as soon as possible and restore a good public order environment in Shanghai City, or he would resign and apologize if unsuccessful. What does the Rat God cult want with these rich second-generation kids? Are they asking for death? Linzikin couldn't figure it out. But he didn't think too much about it, noticing it was late, turned off the lights, and lay down to sleep. Tomorrow, he was to challenge the entire school in the arena, he needed a good rest tonight. The next day, at the crack of dawn. Before his phone alarm went off, Linziken woke up first. He picked up his phone to check the time and saw it was still early, so he didn't rush to get up but instead lay in bed scrolling through the news. Just opening the news app, he was shocked by a top news story. Good news! Last night at 3 in the morning, the city security headquarters teamed up with professors from Evolution College at Shanghai University, and eradicated the rat god cult in one fell swoop. The rat god cult was wiped out. Linziken was shocked, his face filled with disbelief, and immediately clicked on the news to read it in detail. The city security headquarters had requested the assistance of a professor from the Evolution College at Shanghai University. The former was in charge of dealing with the rat god cult followers, while the latter dealt with the rat king. The professor was a genetic integrator, an advanced-level biological creature named Wu Tiancheng. Wu Tiancheng? The strongest historical figure of Shanghai High School? Wasn't he someone who had just graduated from high school in the last few sessions? How did he become a mentor at Shanghai University? Employed right after graduation? With these questions in mind, Linziken searched online and realized that Wu Tiancheng mentioned in the news was indeed the strongest person in Shanghai High School's history. He graduated the year before last and was supposed to stay at Kyoto University, but he was poached back to Shanghai City by Shanghai University. He continued to browse news about the extermination of the rat god cult. Soon, Linziken came across a live video. It had just been released by the city's security headquarters. Upon opening the video, the scene showed a desolate forest landscape. As the camera moved, a giant mutant rat nearly 10 meters in length soon appeared on screen. This massive giant mutant rat, self-proclaimed as the Rat King, sat on the ground like a mountain, overshadowing the sun and appearing extremely sinister. In the video, a birdman hovering in midair was confronting it. It wasn't long before they started fighting. The battle was earth-shattering and the scene was incredibly intense. However, in less than half a minute, the huge Rat King was killed by the birdman, who was no larger than an average adult male. The nearly 10-meter-long massive body was chopped into pieces by the feathers shot out by the birdman. After killing the Rat King, the birdman retracted his wings and landed on the ground. In less than a few seconds, all features of the birdman rapidly vanished from his body, reverting to a well-built young man. It was none other than Wu Tiancheng. Capable of switching freely between human and birdman form. Able to shoot feathers for long-range attacks. Is this what an advanced-level creature is? Truly powerful. Linziken watched Wu Tiancheng in the video, filled with envy. Shanghai City Security Headquarters. The director's office. A stern-faced middle-aged man was sitting and drinking tea with a well-built young man. The middle-aged man took a sip of tea and asked, "Tiancheng, still no contact with your teacher?" The young man shook his head, "Still missing. Those strong individuals who went to suppress the uprising in Source Land number 36 that year are all still unaccounted for." "What's the situation in Source Land number 36 now?" "The situation has stabilized. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the time to be here today to clean up the small fry that slipped in amidst the chaos back then." "Small fry?" The middle-aged man laughed, set down his teacup, and said with a sigh, "Back when the Source Land number 36 uprising happened, you were just a middle school student. It's hard to believe that in just 10 years, you've evolved into an advanced-level creature. The Rat King, who the entire security headquarters was powerless against, is just small fry to you. Talent really makes a difference." After finishing, he asked the young man, "By the way, since you've come out from the origin land this time, are you interested in giving a lecture at your old high school?" The young man waved his hand, declining, "Forget it, I don't have that much time. I have to go back to Source Land to commit myself." If it hadn't been for that Rat King eating more people than he should, I wouldn't have been dispatched here. Shanghai City. Within a kilometer-deep underground cavern, a giant mutant rat more than 10 meters long was cowering in front of a 4-meter-tall three-eyed giant. You started off by eating beggars and vagrants, then moved on to young, tender, and good-looking people, and later you went for those who were high above. I put a lot of effort into dodging surveillance to bring you to Shanghai City so that you could expand our race and dig tunnels. Instead, you've been going around eating people, and your appetite has only grown. Tell me, do you think you deserve to die? The three-eyed giant lifted its right leg high and stomped down on the giant mutant rat's nose, looking down at it imperiously and asking. The giant mutant rat immediately pleaded, "Sir, please give me another chance." "Opportunities, well, can be given, but you need to offer something in return," the giant said. No sooner had the words left its mouth than the three-eyed giant suddenly raised its right hand and forcefully plunged it into one of the giant mutant rat's eyes. A squelching sound was heard. That was followed by the resonating screams of the rat. The next moment, a basketball-sized eyeball was in the hand of the three-eyed giant. Ignoring the screams of the giant mutant rat before him, it opened its maw wide and stuffed the eyeball into its mouth, chewing slowly with visible pleasure. The eyes of sewer rats still smell as foul as ever, but taste delicious. I must say, you may be dull-witted usually, but you're quite clever when it comes to valuing your own life, letting your brother take the front stage as Rat King and facing the risks, while you enjoyed yourself behind the scenes. However, if you don't start digging tunnels under Shanghai City and behave, your life will still be forfeit despite your caution, the giant continued. With that, the three-eyed giant plucked out another eyeball and popped it into its mouth, using it to calm its anger. P.S. Begging for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 76, 76, Top Student of the Senior 2 Honor Class. After watching the video of Wu Tiancheng killing the Rat King, Lin Zikan continued to search and browse related news. Soon, a wanted notice about the remaining fugitive cultists of the Rat God cult caught his eye. The content of the news was that there were still 9 Rat God cult followers on the run, but the Public Security Department had already found their specific identity information and made it public, hoping citizens could provide clues to assist in the capture. There was a reward for providing clues, with the amount ranging from 5,000 to 500,000 yuan depending on the importance of the clue. Lin Zikan glanced at the wanted photos, committing to memory the appearances of the 9 remaining Rat God cult fugitives. These 9 people were walking 500,000 yuan each, worth remembering their faces. However, the reward was secondary, the important thing was to protect oneself. Knowing the appearances of the Rat God cult fugitives meant that if he happened to encounter them by accident one day, he could recognize them immediately and xickly distance himself to avoid danger. He would provide clues to public security only after ensuring his own safety, and then claim the reward. "Xiao Chen, aren't you up yet? It's already 6 o'clock. If you don't get up now, you'll be late for school." While he was engrossed in the news, Zhang Wangzhen's voice came from outside the door. "I know, I'm getting up now." Lin Zikan responded and quickly got out of bed to get dressed. Then he washed up, went downstairs for breakfast. About half an hour later, Lin Zikan stepped out the front door and went to school with Shen Qinghan, who was already waiting for him outside. Along the way, Shen Qinghan, unusually quiet, kept humming softly, sounding more and more skilled and pleasant to hear. Lin Zikan listened and enjoyed it. He had thought that Shen Qinghan would definitely win an award in the competition at the end of December, but now, he believed she was sure to come first. In less than 10 minutes, the two entered the gates of the school. Walking along the campus paths, many were pointing at Lin Zikan, whispering about what had happened to him yesterday. Having announced his challenge to the entire school on the sports field stage the previous afternoon, he was now famous throughout the school. To exaggerate a little, even the stray cats on the road and the dogs kept by the teachers might recognize him. However, this fame wasn't exactly positive. In the senior years, especially among the seniors, aside from some infatuated girls whose values followed their looks. The vast majority of seniors are quite averse to him. They think this freshman is too arrogant and has deeply offended them, the seniors. As for all the pointing and whispering on the way, Linziken didn't care at all, acting as if he had seen or heard nothing, and went about his business as usual. It was tough, though, for Shen Qinghan walking with him. Already socially anxious at school, Shen Qinghan, walking along the campus paths, was constantly struck by the looks others directed at Linziken, her head bowed the entire way, too scared to lift it. The constant chatter around her only made her feel more uncomfortable, to the point where her legs seemed to forget how to walk, and every step felt awkward. Seeing her in this state, Linziken also felt helpless. His childhood friend lacked confidence, always timid at school, which made her seem like an easy target for bullying. He wondered when she would become more confident. The time quickly reached 12 o'clock at noon. As soon as the bell rang for the end of class, Linziken didn't even stop for lunch. He left the classroom and headed for the school gymnasium. He had already eaten something to line his stomach during the break the class before. It was an onigiri made by Zhang Wangzhen. It was convenient, time-saving, and didn't require cleaning a lunchbox. Seeing Linziken heading to the gymnasium, Shen Qinghan hurriedly left her seat to heat her lunch in the office, planning to bring the warm food to the gymnasium to eat and accompany Linziken throughout his challenge matches. She intended to use her phone to capture every moment worth recording of Linziken's performance, collecting all the highlights of his student days, and then prepare a slideshow to give to him as a gift. Meanwhile, Linziken had already arrived at the gym and stepped onto the martial stage. The gym was empty at that moment, not a soul in sight. The students had just finished class and hadn't arrived yet. 2 or 3 minutes later, students began to trickle into the gym. These students hadn't gone to the cafeteria for lunch but had bought a piece of bread from the campus store and come to watch Linziken's first day of individual challenge matches. There were classmates. There were onlookers. There were fangirls. There were hopeful challengers. And there were students who were just there for the raffle. In order to encourage active participation in the challenge, the female principal added a prize for participation in her plan. Any student who took part in the challenge would get a raffle ticket. The prizes were generous, including various latest models of electronic products. Ziai Chen, the top student of the high sophomore honors class, has his sights on you, he said. Today, he wants to rub you relentlessly on the martial stage, beat you until even your own mother wouldn't recognize you. Below the martial stage, He was leisurely munching on his bread as he mimicked the threatening tone of that sophomore honors class tyrant and relayed the message to Linziken, appearing like an instigating eunuch. Wang Shijia sneered upon hearing this. He's just a worthless person who's practiced for an extra year. How could he be considered a match for Linziken? Lu Gang also remarked, those high-graders are nothing but frogs in a well. They have no clue how strong Linziken truly is. At this moment, both top achievers from Nangwen City stood speaking up for Linziken. Sharing his enmity, and looking down upon the top student from the high sophomore honors class. After several shocks, awe, and existential doubts, they both accepted Linziken's superiority, thoroughly convinced that he was the number one of Shanghai High School. Even though Linziken had not yet faced the top students of the junior and senior honors classes, this did not prevent them from being so sure of their stance. They trusted their intuition as geniuses. Xiao Chen, good luck later. Shen Qinghan, holding her heated meal, sat in a corner below the stage, smilingly shouting a word of encouragement to Linziken. Beside her, Li Chuxin also shouted, Ziai Chen, go for it. Linziken waved back at the two and the rest of the class with a smile. About 10 minutes later, the teacher in charge of refereeing arrived. Seeing this, Linziken didn't waste a second and immediately asked everyone below the stage, everyone, the individual challenge match can now begin. Does anyone want to come up for a sparring session? I'll do it. With a delicate voice, a girl with twin ponytails jumped onto the martial stage. She was a student from the ordinary class of grade 1 and was weaker than Shen Qinghan. The main reason she stepped up to the challenge was to have physical contact with Lin Zikan. Lin Zikan didn't go easy on her just because she was a girl. Aiming to save time to spar with more challengers, he knocked her out in less than 3 seconds. Survival of the fittest achievement progress +1. I'm next. It's my turn now, my turn. And me too. In the time that followed, the little fangirls took turns scrambling to get on the stage, all eager for physical contact with Lin Zikan. Then, in less than half an hour, Lin Zikan had taken down nearly 100 little fangirls, significantly increasing his achievement progress by dozens of points. With 95 points progress made in less than half an hour, he thought at this rate, he might complete the survival of the fittest achievement by this week. Lin Zikan felt a surge of excitement within. Another half hour passed, and the supply of little fangirls below the stage had almost been spent. At this time, the cumulative progress for the survival of the fittest achievement had reached 309 points. A straight gain of 190 points within an hour. The speed of progress was far more than what he had accumulated over the past few years combined, ridiculously efficient. In the meantime, some fangirls were not ready to give up and wanted to challenge again after their defeat. Lin Zikan flatly refused, not accepting a second challenge from any losers. Because for the survival of the fittest achievement, he had to defeat different competitors to increase the completion progress. Are there any other challengers? After making use of the little fangirls, Lin Zikan looked down at the others and asked. Yes, of course. There was an immediate response from below the stage. As long as they stepped up to challenge, they would get a raffle ticket afterwards. Everyone was enthusiastic about this, lining up to take their turns for the challenge. Half an hour later, the completion progress for the survival of the fittest achievement had reached 419 points, nearly half completed. Meanwhile, the total amount of money accumulated in the prize pool had reached 2,000 yuan. Anyone else want to come? Lin Zikan looked down and asked. By then, all the little fangirls had had their turn, and the students who wanted raffle tickets were done as well. I'm coming. A senior student from the key class of 3rd year leapt onto the martial stage, a huge guy 2 meters tall, covered with muscles, looking like a mountain. He had his eyes on the 2,000 yuan in the prize pool. Junior, I know you're strong, but setting up a challenge for the whole school as a freshman is a bit too arrogant. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. After speaking, the senior took off his shirt in public, showing off his ridiculously exaggerated pectoral muscles, which throbbed with every flex, brimming with explosive power. 10 seconds later. Bang! A collision sounded. The confident muscled senior who had just been full of confidence to fly backwards off the martial stage. Next. After taking down the muscle-bound senior, Lin Zikan immediately shouted to those below the stage. However, no one came up to challenge. Seeing even a key class 3rd year senior get swiftly defeated, everyone understood their chances, and none stepped forward to be humiliated. As for the raffle tickets, not everyone cared about that. Just as Lin Zikan thought it might be time to call it a day. A commotion suddenly arose from below. Yan Shaoxian is here. I didn't expect him to specifically come here for the challenge. He must really dislike this freshman and wants to come up here to teach him a lesson. This is interesting, now there's a show to watch. Most of the students who came to the gymnasium had done so to watch Yan Shaoxian teach Lin Zikan a lesson. After waiting so long, they finally got to see this dominant figure from the 2nd year's top class. Who is Yan Shaoxian? Hearing the voices below and following everyone's gaze toward a boy approaching the martial stage from a distance, Lin Zikan became curious. Thinking to himself, he turned his head to look at He-Yu, who was well informed about the happenings below. Seeing Lin Zikan's curious gaze, He-Yu knew what he wanted to ask and promptly introduced. Yan Shaoxian is the number 1 student in the top class of the 2nd year that I mentioned to you before. He's said to be able to lift a 560 kg barbell with one hand, sprint 100 meters in just 6.38 seconds, and his overall strength is among the top 5 in the entire school. After hearing that, Lin Zikin nodded, completely unfazed. It was then that a lean figure leaped out from the crowd. The height of his jump nearly reached 4 meters. And then, like a god descending from the heavens, he landed on the martial stage with a thud. Chapter 77, 77. Attributes of Survival of the Fittest. A 4.2-meter vertical jump from a standstill? What kind of spring-loaded person is this? Lifting a 690 kg barbell with one hand, a punch from him could probably kill a cow. No, make that 2 cows. 100 meters in 5.86 seconds, Wuxing is the man. In the classroom of senior year class 1, students were praising a muscular boy. The boy's name was Chen Wuxing, the king of the top students in the senior class. His recent results from the Kyoto University Special Talents exam had just been released, causing an uproar among his classmates. As he basked in everyone's exclamations, a student from the next desk leaned over and said, "Wuxing, I heard that Yan Shaoxian has gone over to the gym to educate that arrogant freshman. Seems like he's trying to imitate what you did to him last year. He's not as handsome as me, nor does he have my charisma. He can't learn it." Chen Wuxing said with a calm face. After that, he stood up from his seat and headed out of the classroom. The class discipline officer, a girl with shoulder-length bobbed hair, noticed he wasn't heading to the bathroom but going downstairs, so she immediately chased after him and asked, "Chen Wuxing, class is about to start. Where are you going?" "To the gym, to illustrate how a senior year should teach a sophomore. Class begins in less than 10 minutes. Are you planning to skip?" "I am skipping class." "So what?" Chen Wuxing stopped, turned around to look at the meddlesome girl at the classroom door, and said coolly, "I've already passed the special admission exam for Kyoto University. Even if I drop out now, I'll still be a Kyoto University student come next September. Don't try to constrain me with the same rules that bind you, get it?" After dropping those words, Chen Wuxing turned and headed towards the staircase, leaving the girl only a dashing silhouette. Inside the gymnasium, 2 people stood on the martial stage. One was Lin Zikin, who held the position of the defender, and the other was Yan Shaoxian, the challenger. The former was the overlord of the first year, and the latter was the overlord of the second year. This battle between the new and old attracted a lot of spectators. Many teachers without classes next period even came to witness this peak showdown. "Who do you think will win?" "Yan Shaoxian, I guess." "I think so too." Although Lin Zikin has become famous lately, after taking down nearly half of the second year's class 3 by himself, that's still just an advanced class, and not on the same level as the elite class. To take a class down single-handedly, Yan Shaoxian easily did that last year. And then what? When he went on to challenge Chen Wuxing, a grade above him, wasn't he thoroughly beaten? Indeed, they are all top-tier geniuses in the elite classes. There's not much difference in talent, an extra year of practice simply makes one much stronger. A group of teachers analyzed the likelihood of victory from below the stage. Their conclusion overwhelmingly doubted Lin Zikin's chances. After all, not everyone is Wu Tiancheng, capable of taking down the entire school in his first year. Besides, when Wu Tiancheng was a first year, the senior students happened to be a weaker cohort, which allowed him to dominate the entire school. Right place, right time, neither can be lacking. On the martial stage, Yan Shaoxian, with one hand in his pocket and casually flicking his bangs that covered his eyes, said with an air of arrogance, "Junior, I was as arrogant as you in my first year. But after being trashed by someone, I learned that there is always someone better. Today, I will give you your first lesson in life, teaching you how to be a genius who is neither arrogant nor impetuous." Last year, in his first year, he was insufferably arrogant, picking a fight with an entire senior class all on his own from the start of the school year. Starting with the second year, he fought his way up, smashing through the regular and advanced classes until he reached the elite class, only to be hung and beaten by Chen Wuxing in a David vs. Goliath fight and brutally grinned against the martial stage. Now, he was the upperclassman. And he wanted to bully the lower grade geniuses, making them suffer the same humiliation he had encountered. If he couldn't beat the higher grades, could he not beat the lower ones? Today he had to brutally trounce the freshman who was showing off. Lin Zikin was oblivious to the drama playing out in Yan Xiaoxuan's mind and didn't wish to listen to his paternalistic preaching. So he looked at the referee and said, "Teacher, we're both in position, can we start the duel?" The referee nodded, then turned to Yan Xiaoxian and asked, "Are you ready?" "Ready," replied Yan Xiaoxian. Hearing this, the referee immediately raised his right hand and swiftly chopped it down, declaring, "The duel begins." "Junior, I suggest BAM." Yan Xiaoxian wanted to say something preachy, but before he could finish, he was kicked off the martial stage by Lin Zikin. "Always talking, hurry down from the stage and let others come up for a challenge, don't delay my survival of the fittest achievement." Muttering to himself, Lin Zikin shouted to the others below, "Lunch break is almost over, does anyone else want to challenge?" No one responded from below. Because, at that moment, everyone on site was dumbfounded. What just happened? Yan Xiaoxian got defeated in a second? That was the overlord of the second year, a genius who ranked among the top 5 in the entire school. He was just knocked down by a freshman with a single kick? You've got to be kidding. How is this possible? After a moment, as the shock wore off, the entire gymnasium suddenly filled with incredulous chatter. Everyone couldn't believe what they had just witnessed was real, wondering if they were dreaming. As for the person involved, Yan Xiaoxian, he sat on the ground in a daze, as if his soul had left his body. "Last year, when I was a junior, I was bullied and beaten up by the seniors. Now that I'm a senior, I'm getting instantly killed by my juniors trying to overthrow me. Either way, it looks like I'm the one who's always getting beaten up." Lin Zikin didn't even glance at the defeated under his hand, ignoring the gasps of astonishment that kept coming from around him. He looked around at the people below the stage and shouted, "Anyone else want to come up for a challenge? Participate to get a chance to draw a prize. You could win a month of free milk tea vouchers. Or the latest fruit brand smartphone." After shouting for a while and seeing that no one else stepped forward, Lin Zikin turned towards a bespectacled girl standing at the edge of the martial stage and asked with a smile, "Classmate, do you want to come up and try a few moves?" "Ah? I'm just a freshman from a liberal arts class, I'm just here for the excitement." "No worries, come on up for the experience." Saying this, Lin Zikin grabbed the bespectacled girl onto the martial stage, stuffed a raffle ticket into her hand, and then instantly knocked her out with one move. Survival of the fittest achievement progress +1. Watching this, even the female principal was a bit stunned. She pondered, Lin Zikin deliberately organized a personal challenge match, shouldn't he be eager for a clash of the strong? Why is he now not even sparing the liberal arts freshman who came to join in the fun? Does he have a battle addiction? Crazed? Not picky at all about his opponents? The female principal was at a loss. However, it didn't matter if she didn't understand, as long as she grasped one thing. And that was to cater to Lin Zikin's needs as much as possible. Thinking this, the female principal immediately arranged a task for the teachers present, instructing them to organize the students who hadn't had a turn to go up on stage and challenge Lin Zikin. So, in the time that followed, many students who originally just came for the fun were herded onto the martial stage like ducks and then instantly defeated by Lin Zikin. Seeing the progress bar shoot up, Lin Zikin was overjoyed, thinking to himself that a strong woman who could be principal really was different with a keen ability to read the situation. Soon, the bell for class rang, and the students expressed that they needed to go back for their lessons. The female principal directly said there was no need to worry about it. If their teachers held them accountable, they should say it was the principal who told them to stay in the gym. Look, Chen Wuxing is here. Is he here for the challenge? I didn't expect even Chen Wuxing, the top student of our school, to come for the challenge. This is going to be good. Right at the moment the bell finished ringing, such a commotion arose from the crowd. Lin Zikin followed the crowd's gaze toward a boy approaching from afar. Chen Wuxing? The number 1 student in the school? So after the juniors come the seniors? Seeing him watching, the boy immediately sped up with a dash, pushed hard off the ground with his calves, and leapt up with a thud as he landed onto the martial stage. Just like Yan Shaoxuan's entrance. The only difference was that this boy's leg muscles had more explosive power, he jumped higher, and he was even more handsome. I really didn't expect Yan Shaoxian to lose to you. On the martial stage, Chen Wuxing said calmly as he looked at Lin Zikin, who was even more attractive than him. After finishing his sentence, he quickly added, "You are indeed very strong, but... Teacher, we're all set in our positions, and we can start the duel." Without waiting for Chen Wuxing to finish, Lin Zikin interrupted him and said this to the referee beside him. Chen Wuxing looked like another chatterbox show-off, and Lin Zikin couldn't be bothered to waste time on him. "Junior, you seem a bit impatient." Chen Wuxing shook his head and then said with a smile, "But that's all right, once the duel starts, I'll let you settle down and listen properly." After about 10 seconds. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of impact, the school's top student who had just been thinking to teach Lin Zikin a lesson was kicked off the martial stage, along with his pride, in an instant. When dealing with those who talked too much and interfered with him completing the survival of the fittest achievement, a quick defeat was the way to go. Without paying attention to the shock of those around him, Lin Zikin urged the students lined up below to get on the stage. "Classmate, don't daydream, hurry up to the stage." Oh, okay." The boy at the front of the line snapped back to reality and responded. He then went up to challenge and was speedily defeated by Lin Zikin. From getting on stage to being knocked down, the whole process took less than 10 seconds, finished in a quick and clean manner. "Next. Come on, next. Keep it going." And so, after match, by the time it was almost 4 in the afternoon, the survival of the fittest achievement was finally completed. In a formal competitive setting, using the most primitive means of biology, you have cumulatively eliminated 1,000 different competitors. Achievement reached. Acquired biometric attribute, Survival of the Fittest. Survival of the Fittest increases the damage you inflict on other organisms. After reading the message, Lin Zikin was quite satisfied with the effect of the biometric attribute Survival of the Fittest. A simple and brutal increase to damage dealt. Very practical. The only slightly disappointing part was that it didn't specify how much damage would be increased, leaving it rather vague. P.S. Begging for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 78, 78. Shen Qinghan's Superpower. Seeing that the Survival of the Fittest achievement was completed, Lin Zikin ended the personal challenge and didn't waste any more time on the martial stage. Afterward, with everyone watching, he and the female principal walked toward the administrative building. Shen Qinghan originally intended to return to the classroom but was asked by Lin Zikin to accompany him to the administrative building, so she followed him with her head lowered. When they arrived at the office in the academic building, the female principal couldn't contain her joy any longer and burst into laughter in front of them. After laughing for a while, she finally congratulated Lin Zikin on becoming the top student in the whole school. Then, recalling the scene where Lin Zikin instantly defeated Chen Wuxing, she couldn't help but ask, "You even defeated Chen Wuxing in mere seconds, Zi Chen, you must still be hiding your strength, right?" "Not bad, I'm just hiding a tiny bit." "I think it's more than a tiny bit. Chen Wuxing just recently took the special admission test for Kyoto University. I've seen his score, he can lift a 690 kilograms barbell with one hand. Even so, he was easily taken down by you with one kick on the martial stage, so it seems your strength must be at least 800 kg. The principal really has divine intuition. I just tested it at home last week, it's 795 kg. Having said that, Lin Zikin smiled and asked, by the way, principal, when can I get the 8,810 yuan from the prize pool? You can have it now. The female principal took out her phone, opened WeChat and said, come, let's add each other on WeChat, and I'll transfer it to you directly. After the transfer, the female principal continued to chat with Lin Zikin. They talked about many things about representing the school in martial arts competitions, about which universities to consider for the future, and some other trivial matters. During this time, Shen Qinghan just sat quietly on the side, listening to their conversation and not daring to play with her phone. About half an hour of chatting passed. Lin Zikin felt that it was enough and stopped discussing these matters with the female principal. Instead, he mentioned that both he and Shen Qinghan really enjoyed swimming and requested to use the competition swimming pool inside the gym. He wanted to use it at any time, and it had to be the kind that is not open to others. When using it, they would block the entrance so no one else could come in, ensuring that only he and Shen Qinghan were in the swimming pool. Without a second thought, the female principal agreed. Seeing her so readily agree, Lin Zikin pushed his luck further, requesting that the cameras be covered when he used it. The reason was that he didn't like the idea of being watched while swimming in his trunks, it would make him feel uncomfortable. Upon hearing such a request, the female principal raised her eyebrows. These two little ones, not only did they want the swimming pool to themselves, but they also wanted to block the cameras. What were they planning to do? Although she was curious, the female principal didn't probe too deeply. Instead, she opened a drawer, took out a key, handed it to Lin Zikin, and said with a smile, Ziai Chen, since you want it, from now on, that swimming pool in the gym will be exclusively yours and King Han's. I will collect all the keys from the other teachers at the evening meeting, so they won't be able to use this swimming pool. With that, she put away her smile and reminded them in the tone of an elder, but Ziai Chen, you two are still young, and you must be careful when there's no one watching over you in the pool. Don't let anything fatal happen. Lin Zikin found this remark somewhat strange but didn't think much of it and simply replied, we will be careful. After leaving the administrative building and returning to the classroom. The classroom was empty, everyone else was outside attending their martial arts training classes. Lin Zikin didn't plan to join the class and sent a WeChat message to Han Yuanfeng to say he was going to leave school early and head home. Immediately after, he packed his things and left the school with Shen Qinghan. On the way home, Shen Qinghan mentioned that she was already quite practiced in singing, but her duet with Li Chuxin didn't harmonize well and needed more practice. She asked if Lin Zikin could accompany her for half an hour of rehearsal in the evening. Lin Zikin happily agreed. Shen Qinghan's commitment to the singing competition was exactly what he wanted to see. He hoped Shen Qinghan could exhibit herself on a large stage and find her confidence, so she would no longer be as introverted and insecure as she was now. Shen Qinghan was inherently excellent, intelligent, and beautiful, she shouldn't live the way she was now. He was well aware that Shen Qinghan's introverted and insecure nature was closely related to his own dazzling presence. In fact, it could be said to be entirely because he shone too brightly. A firefly, if alone in the dark night sky, would be the brightest star. But in the presence of a bright moon, the light of the firefly would pale in comparison. That evening, at Shen Qinghan's home. After dinner, Shen Jianyi and Su Meng were correcting test papers in the living room. Meanwhile, from upstairs came Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan's singing voices, as well as their laughter from when the singing went off-key. Wife, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate for them to be alone in a room playing around now that they are both grown up? Shen Jianyi suddenly asked. Upon hearing this, Su Meng was almost furious, she glared at him and snapped. What's wrong with that? They've grown up together since they were little, what's wrong with them playing in a room together? Who are you, an old man, to object to this? Shen, I'm warning you not to meddle in other people's business. Or else I won't let it go. Su Meng was truly angry, unable to comprehend what was going through her husband's mind, criticizing their daughter and Lin Zikin for being together by themselves as being inappropriate. Was he out of his mind? He was just asking for a scolding. Chapter 79, 78. Shen Qinghan's Superpower _2. Upstairs. Lin Zikin was practicing singing with Shen Qinghan. With his keen sense of perception, he heard the couple's conversation downstairs and couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. He knew exactly what Shen Jianyi and Su Meng were thinking. All he could say was, this was the difference between a father and a mother. The former felt like his precious child was about to be taken away, while the latter felt the child had found a good place to settle down. All right, King Han, we've been practicing for half an hour now, that should be enough. Go study, Lin Zikin said as he turned off the song accompaniment playing on his phone, addressing Shen Qinghan who was seated beside him. Shen Qinghan glanced at the time, saw that indeed half an hour had passed, and obediently went over to the desk to sit down and study. She wasn't as clever as Lin Zikin and could only maintain good grades with diligent studying. Lin Zikin didn't rush home. Instead, he leaned against the wall on Shen Qinghan's bed and began to browse through the phone's news aimlessly, planning to read for a while before returning home. He stumbled upon news related to the remnants of the rat god cult. None of the 9 remnants of the rat god cult had been caught up till now, they were all still at large. According to the city's public security headquarters, rat god cult followers had the ability to communicate with ordinary rats and could use them as their eyes and ears, thus managing to evade capture continuously. Continuing to scroll down, he found more news related to the remnants of the rat god cult. There were 2 such pieces of news. The first, last night in the city, there were 2 cases of young men being tortured to death, and the public security headquarters suspected it was the work of a female remnant of the rat god cult. The second, this morning in an alleyway, the naked body of a woman was found, and the public security headquarters suspected a male remnant of the rat god cult was responsible. At first glance at these 2 news items, Lin Zikin felt puzzled. They were on the run, yet they still committed crimes. Wasn't that like asking for death? But then he quickly understood. The rat god cult followers had undergone forbidden genetic fusion in unconventional ways, with severe disadvantages. The biggest drawback being the dilution of humanity and the strengthening of bestial traits. Once the bestial traits strengthened, they would lose their reason, unable to control themselves, only acting on biological instincts. And most biological instincts are driven by desire. The reason these rat god cult remnants on the run committed crimes wasn't that they wanted to die by engaging in dangerous behavior, they simply couldn't control themselves. After browsing the news for a while, Lin Zikin got up from Shen Qinghan's bed to make his way home. Before leaving, he reminded Shen Qinghan, who was sitting at the desk. Qinghan, remember to bring your swimsuit tomorrow afternoon. We're getting out of school early to practice swimming in the pool, he said. I know, Bai Xiao Chen, Shen Qinghan waved at Lin Zikin, her smile sweet. After Lin Zikin left, she stood up and walked over to the wardrobe, stopping in front of it. Opening the door, she took out 2 swimsuits from the very bottom. One was a conservative one-piece that when worn, covered the body, connecting the top and bottom and leaving very little of the thighs exposed. The other was a more revealing swimsuit, almost like just wearing underwear. Shen Qinghan hesitated for a moment, but eventually blushing, she picked up the more revealing swimsuit and stuffed it into her backpack. Wearing this swimsuit, her body would have more contact with the water, and it would feel a bit more comfortable. After all, the swimming pool in the gymnasium was exclusively for her and Lin Zikin, with no one else there. It wouldn't matter if she wore something more revealing. The next morning, after breakfast, Lin Zikin went out to meet Shen Qinghan for school. When he left the house, Shen Qinghan was either getting up late or something, still having breakfast inside, eggs, bread, and milk. Seeing that he was already waiting outside, Shen Qinghan couldn't afford to eat more, grabbed the bread and milk from the table, slung her backpack over her shoulder, and hurried out of the house. "Run slower, don't fall. It's fine, I'm a student of the martial arts class, don't you underestimate me, okay? Being a student doesn't make you a martial artist, if a stone trips you, you'll still fall. Ah, you're so annoying, always picking on me." Shen Qinghan pouted her rosy lips and playfully hit Lin Zikin with her hand. It was a light hit, just teasing, looking like the playful banter between a couple. They bantered for a few sentences and quickly headed for school to make it on time. On the way, Shen Qinghan, with her small appetite, couldn't finish the bread or the milk. Feeling that throwing them away would be a waste, she handed them over to Lin Zikin to deal with. Lin Zikin didn't mind her saliva, he ate what needed to be eaten and drank what needed to be drunk. After walking for a few minutes, the two of them passed through the school gate and arrived at the school path. Just like yesterday, students on the road would start whispering to each other about Lin Zikin once they saw him. But the difference was, most people yesterday were cursing him for being arrogant and ignorant of the ways of the world. Today, they were in awe of him, saying he took down Chen Wuxing with a single kick, his strength was too terrifying, he must be an exotic beast in human disguise. After entering the classroom, Lin Zikin was greeted with a different atmosphere. The gazes from classmates towards him all felt like they were looking up to a lofty leader, creating a sense of distance that had never been there before. Before, classmates only saw him as the overlord of the first year, someone who still needed more training and growth to compete with the geniuses in the senior classes. But to everyone's surprise, Lin Zikin managed to take down the number one student in the school with just one kick. This strength made him a super genius in a league of his own. Even stronger than the so-called strongest in the school's history, Wu Tiancheng. After all, Wu Tiancheng couldn't have managed to instantly defeat the top student in the school back in his first year. Lin Zikin was indifferent to the change in how those around him viewed him. High school was just an inconsequential interlude in his life. The interpersonal relationships during this period were fragile, mostly coming to an end after graduation. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Lin Zikin had already agreed with Han Yuanfeng to leave class early. Once he saw the time was 4 o'clock, he packed up his bag with Shen Qinghan and left the classroom. Then, in less than 5 minutes, the two entered the gymnasium and arrived at the eagerly anticipated swimming pool. The swimming pool at this time was already filled with cool, clean water. All the cameras on the walls were covered with black tape. It was all done in advance by the female principal. She seemed to take on the role of a nanny, providing the most attentive and meticulous service to the genius. Before getting into the water, Lin Zikin asked Shen Qinghan to close all the doors to the pool and pull down the curtains on the windows as well. He, on the other hand, took a camera detector and an electronic signal jammer out of his backpack. These two tools were bought for his nighttime tests on his physical data, and they came in handy now. After almost 10 minutes. Once the indoor space was confirmed to be absolutely private, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan went to opposite corners out of sight to change into their swimwear. Soon, they both came out of the corners. Lin Zikin wore just a pair of swim trunks, while Shen Qinghan wore a swimsuit that looked almost like underwear. When they first came out and saw each other, the former seemed calm on the surface, but inside there was a surge of emotion. The latter, however, had her pretty face blushing like a ripe peach, feeling very embarrassed. "Let's go, we'll get in the water for training, practicing walking underwater," Lin Zikin said, deliberately averting his gaze from Shen Qinghan, looking at the pool in front of him. Shen Qinghan nodded and followed him into the water. Soon, they were both completely submerged, practicing walking at the bottom of the deep water area. Not long into the practice, Shen Qinghan suddenly, for some reason, tapped Lin Zikin's shoulder with her hand and then quickly surfaced. Lin Zikin frowned, wondering if she had heard the weird sound from the sea before. Thinking this, he immediately surfaced. As he broke through the water, he heard Shen Qinghan say in somewhat panic. Xiao Chen, look quickly, the water in the pool can pass through my body. Following the direction of her voice, he looked toward Shen Qinghan. He saw Shen Qinghan right before him scooping up some water in her hand, and just as she had scooped it up, the next moment the water passed right through her palm, falling back into the pool. P.S. Bowls out, asking for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 80, 79. The reason Shen Qinghan wet the bed. Shen Qinghan is leaking water? Watching the scene before him, Lin Zikin couldn't help but widen his eyes, feeling utterly incredulous. Although he had always been swearing that Shen Qinghan had superpowers, that was mainly to comfort her and prevent her from giving up on herself. As to whether Shen Qinghan really possessed water-related superpowers, he actually had no certainty in his heart. Unexpectedly, Shen Qinghan was now truly displaying a scene where she possessed superpowers. Water could directly pass through the body, what else could this be if not a superpower? Xiao Chen, it's so strange, why are my hands leaking water? Shen Qinghan swam over to Lin Zikin, placing her water-leaking delicate hands in front of him, her expression somewhat at a loss. Lin Zikin steadied his emotions and asked. Besides being permeable to water, do you feel any other changes in your body? Shen Qinghan shook her head, no, I've only discovered that my hands can be penetrated by water, I haven't found any other changes for now. It's only the hands that can be penetrated? Thinking this, Lin Zikin quickly asked again, what does it feel like to be penetrated by water? Shen Qinghan thought for a moment, organized her thoughts, and then replied, how do I say this, it feels like my hands have merged into the water, becoming a part of it, and then there is no feeling of resistance from the water, making movements in the water much more nimble. Lin Zikin pondered for a moment and then looked at Shen Qinghan, saying, stretch out your hand for me to take a look. Shen Qinghan obediently stretched out her hand, extending her right hand. Lin Zikin took her extended hand and carefully examined it. The fingers were slender and long, the skin fair and smooth, soft to the touch, with a particularly nice hand feel, and looked very exquisite altogether. Moreover, it was natural, without any subsequent maintenance, a genetic advantage inherited through generations. With Shen Qinghan's hand, advertising as a hand model, promoting rings, bracelets, manicures, nail polish, etc., the effect would be absolutely fantastic. However, at this moment, Lin Zikin was not in the mood to appreciate how beautiful Shen Qinghan's hand was. Instead, he used her hand to conduct an experiment, asking her to scoop up some water again to observe how the water was passing through her palm. Then he noticed that the water would first stay on her palm for a moment before quickly falling back into the pool through her palm. In this process, the water loss was very fast, looking like a plug had been pulled out of the water pool, flowing away instantly. After observing like this several times, Lin Zikin did not make any useful discoveries. So, he turned his attention to studying Shen Qinghan's palm. First looking, then touching, and finally poking. During this, Shen Qinghan felt a tickling sensation in her palm, which was quite uncomfortable, but seeing Lin Zikin so focused on his research, she kept still, allowing him to continue studying. After a thorough examination, Lin Zikin found that Shen Qinghan's palm was quite normal. Apart from water being able to penetrate through it, in terms of touch, temperature, or color and other features, it all seemed no different from an ordinary person. It's only the hand that water can pass through. Yet, it's only the hand that feels unusual. Let's go up, I'll give you a thorough physical examination to see if there are other parts of your body that can be penetrated by water. Okay. The two exchanged a few simple words and soon swam ashore together. Lin Zikin brought a few chairs together for Shen Qinghan to lie on for him to examine her body. Then, he took out a water bottle from his backpack, filled it with water, and slowly poured it onto Shen Qinghan's body to see if any other parts could also be penetrated by water. With Lin Ziqan observing her body so closely, Shen Qinghan's face turned completely red. She quickly closed her eyes to divert her attention, looking all shy and bashful. Lin Ziqan, however, didn't mind these things and focused all his attention on researching the superpower. About 10 minutes later, the examination had ended. It had been done 3 times in total. The final conclusion was that Shen Qinghan's hands were indeed the only parts that could be permeated by water, all other parts of her body were normal. Xiao Chen, have you figured anything out? Shen Qinghan, completely drenched, sat up from the chair and looked at Lin Ziqan with some expectation. Lin Ziqan shook his head, for now, aside from knowing that your hands can be penetrated by water, I know nothing else. I see. Not getting the answer she hoped for, Shen Qinghan felt a bit disappointed. Lin Ziqan said in a comforting tone, don't worry, there's plenty of time in the future to research slowly, no need to rush things. That's true. Shen Qinghan's beautiful eyes curved, and she smiled sweetly, no matter what, at least now I can be sure that I do have superpowers, just that they haven't been fully unearthed yet. After saying that, she seemed to think of something, her cheeks blushed slightly, and she started playing with her fingers. After hesitating for a moment, she said in an embarrassed voice. Xiao Chen, do you think it's possible that since I was young, I have not been able to hold my bladder because some part of me is like my palms now, unable to hold water, resulting in it seeping out? If there's no surprise, that should be the reason. After saying that, Lin Ziqan added, next time you feel a strong urge to pee and you think you can't hold it, you can investigate it yourself, to see if some part of your body has the same unusual sensation as your current hands do. Actually, what he had wanted to say was to ask her to notify him next time she was in a hurry to pee, so he could research it. But before he could say it out loud, he realized that it sounded very inappropriate, like something a pervert would say, so he swallowed the words and changed them to what he had just said. Still, Shen Qinghan across from him blushed, finding the topic embarrassing. By the way, Xiao Chen, what should I do with my hands now? Shen Qinghan, looking at her leaky hands, couldn't help but display a trace of worry on her face. Lin Ziqan reassured, it's all right, don't worry too much, your hands in this condition should not be permanent, I estimate they will return to normal soon. Otherwise, you wouldn't have lived this long without encountering this situation before. After that, he added another sentence, once your superpower is further developed in the future, you should be able to control whether your body can be permeated by water or not, just like those superpowered beings in the movies who can transition between elemental and solid forms at will, turning into water when entering water, and reverting to human form when exiting. That sounds amazing. Shen Qinghan's eyes were full of anticipation, she couldn't wait to see the day come. At that moment, Lin Ziqan asked, by the way, when you were walking at the bottom of the pool just now, did you do anything that you don't usually do? After asking, he explained further, I think the reason your hands are like this now might be because you did some special action at that time. Shen Qinghan thought hard. A moment later, she said with certainty, I didn't do anything special, I was just walking when suddenly I felt an abnormal sensation in my hands, and then I saw that water could pass through them. Lin Ziqan nodded upon hearing this and didn't say anything more. In the time that followed, the two trained in the pool, all the while discussing topics related to superpowers. They fantasized about all kinds of superpowers based on the movies, TV shows, and comics they had seen or read. Such as water magicians, water elementalists, water sprites, aquatic gods, even cultivators with a water spiritual root, and so on. Throughout these discussions, Shen Qinghan was extremely excited, her pretty face looking flushed. Having lived for so many years, she had finally confirmed that she was not a talentless girl but a superpowered being related to water. She thought that once she had fully developed her superpowers, nobody would call her Linzicken's maidservant anymore. Instead, they would say that the two of them were a match made in heaven, a peerless and powerful duo. P.S. I'm putting out my bowl, asking for monthly and recommendation tickets.